I just did a video on talking about the city, the New Jerusalem. And I mentioned that the dimensions came out to be a city of 1,300 miles square and 1,300 miles up. In other words, it was like a pyramid, and at the top was the Temple of God. And I mentioned that if, according to the measurements and according to the area, if there were 10 billion people in that city, that you would still have an estate for yourself, 14 miles square, and a mansion with 100-foot ceilings. And I felt a skeptical spirit come at me before I even published the video. I felt the spirit of man come at me and say, now hold it. If there's 4 billion people on this earth now, and we are overcrowded, how could we possibly have 10 billion people, or I'm sorry, 6 billion people on this earth, and we're crowded? How can we have 10 billion people in one place and not be crowded? First of all, you are talking about the reality of man. And since the Garden of Eden, our reality has always been skewed, kind of shaded, to say the least. I remember a woman who, at the age of almost 90 years old, was in her tent door, and she heard a man tell her husband that she would have a child. And the woman laughed to herself. She said, after my change of life, so many years ago, after not being together with my husband for so long because of our ages, am I to know the pleasure of a child? And God said, all things are possible with God. There was another woman in the Old Testament that was grieving for a child. And I'm not saying this was the best reason to want a child, but it was a very disgraceful thing in Bible times not to be a mother, because you were carrying out the mandate of man upon the earth. You were being fruitful, you were multiplying. And the lady was praying in the temple, and there was a priest there, Eli, who looked upon her and saw her praying to herself, and her distress was showing on her face. And he said, how can you come to the temple and pray while you're drunk like that? And she told the priest, she said, my pain and my demeanor is not drunkenness. It's sorrow because I have no child. And we all know the story there. The prophet Samuel was given to her by God. When we limit God in anything, we limit the creator of the universe. Now, I know there are many, many men who will say it is just there. There is no intelligent being to keep things going smoothly. The temperatures that we experience around the world that are growing more intense for all of these decades has been regulated by accident. That's what they say. Man has not completely blown himself up. Not by an intelligent force intervening in ways to keep it from happening, but by accident. We cannot limit God. First of all, when we say there is no city that can hold 10 billion people, we're talking from a society that has never seen a city 1,300 miles square. We are talking of a world that has vast amounts of water, vast amounts of ocean. And the Bible says there was no more sea. Or the seas had been done away with. So we are talking about much more room being available. And how many cities do you know that go straight up to? God has a way of operating. God has a way of planning. And God has a way of doing what is good for everything and everybody without our input, without our questioning, without our doubt. And He will do it. It will be accomplished. God bless you. Keep the faith and keep looking up.